I am delighted and honored to be with you on this Labor Sunday. Thank you so much for having me. Laurel, thank you so much for your amazing piano playing. And Sandra, thank you for putting together such a wonderful service. My heart is full already. I feel like I almost don't have any more to say. I'm just so filled. Thank you. I am delighted to be addressing a group of folks who welcome diversity, act for justice, foster spiritual growth, inspire compassion, nurture community, and sustain our living planet. I would like to dedicate my message today to the memory of my fierce grandmothers, Beulah and Grace, who raised families built on strong faith and caring for one another. To the memory of Mary Kay Craig, a fierce advocate for economic and environmental dignity, whose work was guided by her strong faith. To the memory of Zena Beth McGloshin, who taught me to be brave and unapologetic in my work to gain better conditions for us all. In honor of my hardworking mother, Nancy, who made it a priority that I have a church family wherever we lived. My sister, Jody, whose love has sustained me in all of my years. My adopted mom, Michael Hawk, who has dedicated her life to social justice for the underrepresented, and to Marion Jensen, a mentor and social justice warrior that often serves as my North Star as I navigate life's tough decisions. These tough as nails, take no prisoners women have brought me here, and I am grateful for their guidance. I should also add a dedication to my dad, Billy, who instilled union values and showed me in person what it looks like to care for the least of these, and my husband, Kevin, who continually sacrifices our shared time together so that I can do this, preach the gospel of labor. For a little background, I grew up in Billings, one of many children of hardworking parents. I would not have had fillings in my teeth or glasses to see the chalkboard had it not been for my dad's laborer's insurance. I moved to Butte in 1997 and have been a math and biology teacher for about 15 years. Last year, I was elected to be president of my union, the Montana Federation of Public Employees, the largest union in Montana. And let me just pause to acknowledge that the last year has not been the easiest year to do anything, let alone be the president of essential workers across Montana, workers whose jobs are funded and working conditions decided at the whim of a sometimes irresponsible and uninformed and often fickle group of politicians. I have fond memories of attending church 3 or more times a week growing up, as my brother Luke and I always walked to the church that was closest to us. We enjoyed the love and structure afforded by a church family, and really any congregation would do. I would have been a Nazarene, but ended up being baptized in the Southern Baptist Church that they built 1 block from our house. I read the Bible as a teenager, so I'm going to include some biblical references today because those are the most familiar to me, but I recognize that religious and spiritual texts across humanity share similar values and give similar advice on myriad topics, including caring for the poor, sharing wealth, and honoring hard work. MFPE, my people, the Montana Federation of Public Employees, represents members in every precinct in Montana. Thousands of MFPE members are city, county, and state employees in a wide variety of jobs, from highway patrol officers to nurses, from wildlife biologists to accountants. Others are school and university employees, teachers and staff in Head Start, K-12 schools, and higher education. But all are committed to defending, promoting, and enhancing and growing the Montana labor movement and middle class. The tie that binds MFPE members together is a shared dedication to public service, to Montana's people, and to the professional and economic well-being of Montana's public employees. MFPE, Montana's largest union, continues to be a federation of the people, by the people, and for the people. We are a union of professionals that champions fairness, democracy, economic opportunity, and high-quality public education and healthcare and public services for our families and communities. We work for fairness and justice for our members and all Montanans. We believe public services are essential to any society. They allow families, communities, and businesses to thrive. They keep the middle class strong and help vulnerable people weather tough times and get back on their feet. We believe public education is the cornerstone of our democracy. We believe all working people deserve a voice, a seat at the table, fair treatment in the workplace, and the right to collectively bargain for better working conditions. As I was reading the UUFB website, I was thinking we have more than a few things in common. I am a unionist because it carries out in real life the values I was taught growing up, the values I read in the Bible and that are found in religious and spiritual texts across humanity. Humans from every culture throughout time have shared the values of caring for the poor, fairness, equality, and justice. Shared values that support strong families, like the golden rule of do unto others as you would have done unto you. This may sound familiar to you Unitarian Universalists, as you affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations, acceptance of one another, and encouragement to spiritual growth, the right of conscience and the use of the democratic process within your congregation and in society at large, the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all, and respect for the interdependent web of all existence. Labor Day was established in America in response to workers' calls to recognize the many contributions we workers have made to America's strength, prosperity, and well-being. Way back in 1909, the American Federation of Labor Convention passed a resolution adopting today, the Sunday before Labor Day, as the official Labor Sunday, dedicating this day to the spiritual and educational aspects of the labor movement. American labor unions raise the nation's standard of living and bring America closer to the realization of economic and political democracy. And unionism is the original grassroots movement in America. Today, MFPE's annual conference, held every spring as hundreds of members from every Montana community come together to democratically discuss, amend, and approve the union budget, constitution, and new business, is the largest democratic convening in Montana. The two-day conference follows the same general structure that has allowed workers to govern themselves for nearly 2 centuries in America. At the 2020 annual conference, MFPE members adopted a legislative program outlining our collective goals for the Montana legislature, all framed around our shared values of adequate public funding for great public services. And in the 2021 legislature, we rallied over 7,000 activists to help protect pensions, preserve collective bargaining and union rights, fund public education, and increase pay for public employees. Together with our private sector union family and the Montana AFL-CIO, we made a historic stand against out-of-state profiteers and corporate lobbyists to protect Montana against so-called right-to-work legislation. It was perhaps the only bright spot in an otherwise abysmal legislative session. So you see, the labor movement is alive and well in Montana, and Montana workers deserve to be celebrated, especially on Labor Day. I'm wearing red today because red is the workers' color in many parts of the world, as signified by the song by James Connell, "The Red Flag." You may be familiar with the story of labor organizer Frank Little, who was drugged behind the back of a car and hung from a trestle in Butte for daring to organize miners. His funeral may have been the largest ever held in Butte, with the funeral procession spanning the entire hill all the way out to the flats. Partway down the hill, red flags were unfurled for the remainder of his final journey. The red flag song says, "The workers' flag is deepest red. It shrouded oft our martyred dead. And ere their limbs grow stiff and cold, their lifeblood dyed its every fold. Then raise the scarlet standard high, beneath its folds we'll live and die. Though cowards flinch and traitors sneer, we'll keep the red flag flying here." It is imperative to honor those whose blood has stained our red flag in the historic fight to gain basic rights for workers in order to grow strong families. Unions build strong communities by guaranteeing safe working conditions so workers can go home to be with their families. Unions build strong communities by bargaining death benefits for the decreasing number who don't make it home so their spouses can keep the house and continue to care for the family without having to find new employment. Unions build communities by negotiating living wages so workers can send their kids to school for an education that will afford them a better life, so workers can afford leisure and hobbies and recreation like music lessons and fishing trips, so they can afford healthy food, healthcare, and medicine, so they can afford a house and a car and build equity and personal wealth, stimulating their local economy. Unions build communities by fighting for shorter workdays so workers can spend time with their families, attending church and community events, recreating, passing culture, tradition, and values onto their kids, teaching them skills like painting the trim and edging the lawn. Unions build strong communities by giving workers a voice in the workplace, affording them the respect due to the producers of all of the wealth in the world. Although labor history mirrors American history in its unfair treatment of women and minorities, today unions level the playing field, offering equal pay, benefits, and representation across gender and ethnicity. Labor unions sprung up organically in a parallel time of unbridled greed. Unions have been many workers' only recourse when our fellow humans don't live up to the golden rule. Even though 2 Timothy 2:6 says, "It is the hardworking farmer who ought to have the first share of the crops," believe it or not all capitalists agree that the workers should own a share of the wealth they produce. Unions have given working folks an increased share of that wealth. Leviticus 19:13 says, "You shall not defraud your neighbor, you shall not steal, you shall not keep for yourself the wages of a laborer until morning." Unions have ensured working folks are paid for their labor in a timely manner. James 5:1, 4, and 5 says, "Now listen, you rich people, weep and wail because of the misery that is coming on you. Look, the wages you failed to pay the workers who mowed your fields are crying out against you. The cries of the harvesters have reached the ears of the Lord Almighty. You have lived on earth in luxury and self-indulgence." And Proverbs 22:16 says, "One who oppresses the poor to increase his wealth, and one who gives gifts to the rich, both come to poverty." Unions have narrowed the wealth gap, stimulating Main Street economies by putting wages into the pockets of workers who spend those wages in our own communities. Amos 9:13 says, "The days are coming, declares the Lord, when the reaper will be overtaken by the plowman and the planter by the one treading grapes." You may have heard the old labor songs that stole tunes from hymns, and forgive me for saying so, set them to words that made more sense to a worker struggling to earn rewards in this life, rewards that would feed and house and educate their family today, not pie-in-the-sky rewards in the afterlife. I think people join unions and congregations for many of the same reasons. We want to use our God-given talents to elevate the standard of living for working families now, on this earth, today, so we can make the very most out of our very short time on this beautiful planet. For those of us who care about our fellow man, we are called to put our faith into action. As James 2:14 through 18 and 24 and 26 say, "What does it profit, my brethren, if someone says he has faith but does not have works? Can faith save him? If a brother or sister is naked and destitute of daily food, and one says to them, 'Depart in peace, be warmed and filled,' but you do not give them the things which are needed for the body, what does it profit? Thus also faith by itself, if it does not have works, is dead. But someone will say, 'You have faith, I have works. Show me your faith without your works, and I will show you my faith by my works.' You see then that a man is justified by works and not by faith only. For as the body without the spirit is dead, so faith without works is dead also." I know that just like MFPE members, the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Bozeman believes strongly in supporting community and putting your faith into action. So I will leave you today with several local calls to action. The Bozeman nurses are right now negotiating with Bozeman Health to earn fair wages that might allow them to actually live where they work. You can call the Bozeman Health Administrative Team at 414-5000 and leave them a message urging them to pay a living wage for healthcare workers in Bozeman. MFPE and our union family activated over 7,000 Montanans to protect pensions, save jobs, pay workers, and preserve workers' rights during the legislative session. And we're right now gearing up for the next session, when we'll do it all over again. You can join our team by going to mfpe.org/protectmontana. Your Bozeman educators are being attacked on social media, in the press, and at your local school board meetings by extremists who continue to exacerbate this pandemic and persecute teachers and public education. Take a stand to support your local public schools and public educators by posting positive messages on social media and sending supportive messages to your local school board trustees. Right now, they are only hearing from a very small, very vocal, and very toxic minority. Add your voice of sanity and love to the discussion, and don't let yourselves be shouted down. I'll add one last call to action in pointing out that one of your school board members here doesn't support public education at all. And perhaps the most radical way to put your faith into action is to file to serve in seats like a public school board or a city council or the state legislature. As you take part in these radical acts of community, remember what Titus 2:7-8 says. Show yourself in all respects to be a model of good works, and in your teaching show integrity, dignity, and sound speech that cannot be condemned, so that an opponent may be put to shame, having nothing evil to say about us. And don't forget 1 Corinthians 16:14, let all that you do be done in love. And one more, the last word for today can be Amos 5:24. Let justice roll on like a river, and righteousness like a never-failing stream. I want to thank you once again for having me here today to celebrate workers on this Labor Sunday. Thanks especially to Laurel for the wonderful music and Sandra for putting together such a great service. Peace and love to you as you enjoy a day of rest tomorrow in honor of we unionists who have sung, marched, struck, or died to win the weekend, the 8-hour day, pensions, access to health care, living wages, and respect in our workplaces.